Hey everybody, welcome to the live Q&A for the SynthRider Festival. We are here to celebrate and discuss the rise of the synths, the amazing Synthwave documentary that you've just seen over the course of the last 24 hours. And if you have not seen it yet, don't worry, because they're extending it for another 24 hours due to popular demand. So that's exciting. So that if you've seen it only once, go see it again. I'm sure you missed something. Look around. Like, you can see us here. We have stuff in the backdrop. Who knows what you missed the first time? My guests today are director of the documentary, Yvonne Castel. Did I say that right? Close enough?
You said it close enough. Hi, everyone.
Yeah. There you go. And we have Ogre, the score composer. How you doing, Ogre?
Very well, thank you.
Mecca. Look at all the synthesizers in the back. I'm just in awe of the synthesizer game you have going on.
Thanks.
And live from Toronto, we have Mecca Maiko.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you, Aaron?
I'm fine. You had a great DJ set.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, very exciting. I wanted to make a note to everybody out there that if there's some production questions that come up and stuff, they have all of the producers from the documentary are in the chat, so if you'll see them in there. Anna, Rebecca, and Javi are in there. I think you're all there. Yeah, it looks like it. So let's get started here. So this documentary, Yvonne. Tell us about your journey. What did you learn from this?
Wow. The first question, okay. Why did I learn? That is really tough to make documentaries about musicians. It takes a long time, but it's super exciting. And that, not jokes aside, that was really amazing to do a documentary in so many countries with so many musicians that are quite all different. The variety was great. I mean, just for me to meet them, and that was an amazing opportunity for me as a filmmaker. And I don't know, it was a joy to make it, honestly.
Yeah, it seems like you put everything into it. You spent some time on it. You went all over the place. It's and that's reflected in the depth and breadth of the documentary. I want to say one thing for everybody out there. If you have questions, we have obviously the interactive Q&A at the end of this. You can just ask the question, and it's queuing up in my feed here, and I'll go through at the end and address those. So just keep the questions coming. So what I was interested in was, Ogre had an amazing, sort of unique score for this documentary, and I wanted to kind of dive into how that worked for you too. Like, how did you come about creating it? Was it scoring the picture? Did you go back and forth during the editing process? If Ogre could start, and then Yvonne can kind of complement.
It was a pretty quick turnaround, really. So I got pretty close to the final cut sent to me, and then I just went to it, and we locked it to picture that way. So I was working with towards the end of the editing process, and just kind of went for it, really.
Yeah. What did you draw from? Because you have anybody who's heard an Ogre record, you cover a lot of different aspects of like the synth music history. You go into the 70s, into the German scene, Berlin school, Kosmisch, however you want to krautrock. But then you also have like All Hallows Eve and stuff like that, which is more Carpenter. So, like, what did you draw from for this? What is sort of your palette that you chose, and how did you?
It's there was definitely like some Kosmishi sequency Berlin school. I'm such a Tangerine Dream fanboy, so
there you go.
But honestly, like a lot of these, I always use hardware. I used hardware for the score, so a lot of the time the gear will inform the music. So I sort of just selected what I was going to use at the start of the process. Like Yvonne had a lot of, I mean, you trusted me to sort of just go for it, but you gave me some sort of reference. The drive score was actually a touchstone at times. So.
Cliff Martinez's part?
Yeah, Martinez. just for the sort of mood of some of the night drive scenes and that kind of stuff. So, but again, that like a lot of his sequences are kind of Tangerine Dreamy inspired. So largely it was sort of like a Berlin School sort of jam a lot of the time. For some of the more sort of narrative elements in it, like Carpenter is obviously narrating the documentaries, and
Right.
there was just the one part where he's talking about minimalism of scoring. So I just sort of Mickey Moused what he was saying for that moment. So I don't know. Yeah, but I feel like the narration and the narrative kind of informed a lot of it too. So
What are your thoughts on that, on minimalism versus maximalism? Like he's known for minimalist parts, right? Sometimes he'll only have two parts going at a time.
Yeah.
And you sort of get into that territory as well, while others sort of find solace in a wall of sound. So yeah.
I think you need
like what
both.
is your
like
you need both?
You can't have a huge explosion-y moments without like quiet. It's all about dynamics, and the louder bits will have more impact if you also have sort of more minimalist sort of moments as well. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
So Mecca Maiko, you were you had a really fun bit in the film. I liked sort of the mise en scène that was going on there. But you shot it a couple years ago, and I'm curious, like you've had a lot happen since then. Can you tell us a little bit about how your sort of musical journey has transpired since then, and what you've kind of learned along the way?
Yeah, well, I feel like, oh my God, it feels like it was so long ago to look back at that scene. I don't know, like since then, I guess at that point I was really just working off of like my very first record ever, and since then I've had two more. And so at that point I was still very like, I'm just like a little SoundCloud baby, and I don't know, the amount of work that goes into social media and doing everything. I don't know, like just having your own solo project is a lot of work, which I kind of took for granted once, like back in the Dead Astronauts days. But
oh yeah,
I don't know. Since then, I think like the one scene that was used is me talking about how I'm not really putting like my face out there a whole lot, or I would kind of just let the music exist and then I'd be more of a byproduct. And I think I've kind of gotten over a little bit of those like fears and like concerns about judgment, or notions about like I don't know. I think I'm like kind of less afraid of it, like the more I encounter it. So
right. But you
my
also
inclination is less to like pull away.
Which is interesting, because like when you sort of like stepped out and you're like, hey, I'm Mecca Maiko, like you got some of the like most already kind of iconic imagery and synthwave out there with some of your photos, which people have probably seen on my website, Vilingo. There's the one where you're in the I had to plug myself. I realized I forgot to introduce myself. I don't think about myself, I guess. But there's, you're in the helmet, and there's like all these different sort of like shots that you're in, and it's like you've really embraced it now. So now you're like, hey, I'm here and I'm making fantastic music, and that's cool, right? I mean, do you feel you're where do you go from here then? Are you going to do more music videos? Are you like, how do you double down on that, on being out there out front?
Double down on being out there?
Yeah. Feature films? No, I'm just kidding.
No. I mean, I definitely like the idea of doing some more music videos. I think actually what made me less worried about like popping out into the world was performing, because you have to be there to perform. So I don't know. I just like definitely more music videos. Like Judge Bitch did a great job with my last one. So
right.
Call him up again.
So Well, I'm gonna kind of ask this of everybody who's kind of been around. Like you've been sort of in the scene for various amounts of time, but I'll start with Mecca because we're already talking. How has the scene changed, in your opinion, since you started with Dead Astronauts, which must have been what, 8 years ago, 7 years ago?
Around there.
Yeah. How has it changed, and how do you feel about that?
Well, Hello Future isn't really a thing anymore, which I'm kind of sad about.
Yeah, iconic. I think you both were on that label, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like it's definitely like when we were making our first record, we were sending it to places like we were looking for music blogs to send it to. And now there's more, but they're kind of at their resurgence now. But I think we never would have expected to see any kind of synthwave performance ever. And now I think the live scene has like really ramped up.
Right. People expect it more so now.
Yes. There's a lot more events going on. Like I think when Dead Astronauts was the thing, we had like one concert request ever. And now there's a lot more stuff going on like all over the world. So I would definitely say the live scene is picked up. And to see like acts like FM 84 like selling out venues in Toronto is crazy. Like I never thought that would happen in my town. So.
Right. So Ogre, you've been around a while as well. Probably you were around well before I came onto the picture 6 years ago. So how about for you? Like what has changed and what is your sort of, how have you been, what do you think of that? What's your assessment?
I largely agree with everything Haley just said. Basically, like it's gone from like a very sort of niche, I don't know, like cyberspace where like as a scene, it didn't have there was no geographical locus to this scene. It was just like Synthetics FM originally, and I would say that was like one of the places where community grew up in, like that Facebook group and stuff.
Right.
I don't know what it's like now. I haven't been on Facebook in like 3 or 4 years or something, and I can't imagine it's particularly pretty with the way Facebook's gone or whatever. But I do think things have moved into live territory. Like the amount of like I get asked to play gigs and stuff, and I'm not doing it at the moment. For various reasons, but I do think things have moved into a much more sort of like live performance territory. And I think with blogs and things there was there were sort of like 5 or 6 originally, and then a lot of them disappeared, and then like there's Aaron's site now which still covers synth music, and I know you've just diversified that to market So
it's changed.
It's an interesting time.
It is. And so then Yvonne had the challenge of trying to like document this narrative of what started out as kind of a MySpace scene. I mean, you think about it, stuff like the Drive soundtrack is almost entirely a MySpace soundtrack, and then it's sort of now becoming more. There's synthwave bands on bigger labels, and there's a lot more of there's a bigger infrastructure there. So when you were sort of capturing this, Yvonne, what are some of the things that you were noticing trend wise over time, and how do you sort of fit that into a narrative?
One of the things that was really interesting is that seeing that from the outside, when I discovered the Synthwave subculture, what really drove me into that was one the passion. The comments all over the place was something that I didn't really saw in other music that I was into. So that was the entry for me. Okay, there's passion here, there's emotion, there's something that people are connecting to that I need to understand why, because that's not only because of the music, there's something behind that I don't get. That was the entry point. And so I really grabbed to that feeling that I had that made me go into this music, and the whole movie was me trying to translate to translate the feeling that I had and the process that I had when I came into that, and I saw other people that were in my entourage when I was talking to them. Okay, there's this music that I learned about, and you should maybe check out because you are into filmmaking and you will probably understand. And they were like, "Wow, this is amazing!" And they get into rabbit holes of discovering just so many because it's endless. One of the things that you learn what you is endless. There's so many artists that it can be overwhelming at first. So it was me just trying. The narrative for me was, okay, let's try to translate this feeling and this journey of discovery to people. Because I think that it's more people that just throw it all into you, like, okay, this is amazing music. All of, trying to explain it accurately was nothing. It was no interest for me. I was trying to connect, and because the emotion that I felt is what I think people will be interested to much, and the music comes after.
Right. I think that's you and some others have made this point quite a bit that a lot of synthwave is it starts out as an emotion, nostalgia, longing, wistfulness, excitement, all of these things, and then people sort of build these worlds around them. Like you basically have an entire, like Ogre's built an entire world that you can live with for a couple dozen albums, I think, at this point, right? And Mecca Maiko has built her world, and it's a very interesting sort of trajectory from Mad But Soft to Okia to Phones. Oh, is it Phones? What's the album called again? Yeah, right. So Phones is the awesome hit single off of it, right? So there's like everybody has their own journey. I think that's why it has such a strong fan base too, is because people have they have an emotional investment in it. And I thought you did a great job of capturing that in the film of like people, because a lot of these artists sort of start out as fans, right? Like, maybe they were just in the Facebook groups and they really liked Miami Nights or something. And then it sort of develops from there. What was the biggest challenge for you in making this, Yvonne? Like whether when you were out in the field or when you were, at the computer or what have you? Anything
was very complicated because you have an idea. Documentaries are kind of much more complicated than fiction, okay? Because fiction, there's a script and you can't really edit.
Right.
There's no endless possibilities, okay? Documentaries with I had like 25 interviews or a little bit more, which were 1 hour longer. So imagine how many footage I have. It was crazy. And I have to translate, just trying to create something that was not too deep, not too niche, not too...
Right.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
And that was really challenging for me because you cannot really the cat. I love the cat.
I have the cat's on the shirt of Mecca's that I have, the pink shirt, right? It has the cat on it.
Yes, this is the cat. I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry. So
you're talking about one of the biggest challenges ever, Yvonne, which is taking how many hours of footage and trying to get a story out of it.
Yes, and obviously there's not only the interviews, which is just, I would say, much more mechanical stuff. You just need to go out and grab the interesting parts. But there's many narratives in the film. There's the time travel backwards. That really is really complicated to put in a film because regularly documentaries are based on topic. It's section. Mm-hmm. Okay, we are going to talk about, I don't know, how I started in making music. And then you go into the next phase, which is where I want to go. And then what were my inspirations? But this was not the case. I had to edit this movie. It was mainly based on decades. And decades have their own themes. So imagine doing that. And then you have the narrative of John Carpenter, which you have to, put into the whole time travel. So the editing was the most complicated part for me.
Yeah. Somebody asked the question, I know I said we do Q&A at the end, but somebody asked the question I think fits right now. They don't have a name, but they were asking how you got the horror master John Carpenter on board, because that's it's a big deal.
Okay, so the thing with John Carpenter is that we asked him, I think 4 years ago when we started. We just wrote him an email, his agent, and to see if he were being interested in being the narrator of the film, because basically it was the main figure that everybody was talking about. I mean, it was like this thing that was I don't know, John Carpenter is like the icon of the synthwave. So it's like the personification of synthwave for me. So I had to try that. So he said that he would be interested, and long short story, we have the producers who are on the chat. We'll probably tell you a little bit more about that, but it was a really long journey of trying to explain what we wanted to do, why we thought he was the person that needed to be the narrator of this film, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
But he was always very interested in making a film. So it was not easy, but it was just trying to have a nice relationship with him and trying to explain to him that it was going to be a real film in the end, and that was going to happen. So
you met you met a director who is highly influential, and you probably liked his movies before you, right? Was it like, what was that like meeting him? I mean, that's kind of it's like meeting an icon, right?
That was really complicated because I have to have my mind like super clear that I had to go to work and that I have a few hours with him, and I was the director, and I was not going to ask him for any, sign me this thing, or I was just there to work, and I had to have my mind clear. You go to LA, you fly, you have like a jet lag, and you have to have your mind super clear. And obviously, it was amazing. I mean, he's an icon. So, you cannot escape from that. But it was really a super amazing experience, very emotional, emotional, just for a few hours. And he was really a nice guy for the whole crew, and it was a really amazing day for me.
Yeah. So Ogre mentioned the Drive soundtrack before, and I'm curious, sort of, Ogre, in your experience, what do you think ultimately Drive has done for synthwave?
I think in some ways it's less the score and more the actual soundtrack, the song placements, the syncs and stuff from the film that really hit that, I don't know, zeitgeist, I guess, like broadly, like the Night Call and stuff. That was just a hit, like, I don't know, college, and so there's so many like great songs that would work great with the picture, and that's like so rare. It's so rare to have like a film with a great score and a great soundtrack, and for I don't know, like the picture to work so well. Like it's like I guess like Refn had like in his mind, like he probably when he was writing or something, I don't know, but it's almost like they were part of the film's DNA or something like that.
Right. Well, and the idea was that you have a guy who didn't talk much, and so he really most of the emotion is expressed by the music rather than dialogue. They cut a lot of dialogue. One thing that's interesting about the film, though, is like it's often said to be kind of the breakthrough for synthwave or something. I think it was in some ways, but it's also, it's not as synthwave as kind of what came afterward, at least in my opinion.
Right.
And it's still Drive is like, it's big, but it's not mainstream. And it makes me think about how, like this is mentioned a lot all over the place about, is synthwave mainstream? Will it go mainstream? What happens when it goes mainstream? And we've seen more of it after that, like with Stranger Things is definitely, I think you could consider Stranger Things mainstream. But then again, I don't know, like we're in a world in which the mainstream is very minimal. There's so many niche audiences. And I'm curious, Mecca Maiko, if you think synthwave has the ability to go mainstream, but also do you think it's a good idea if it hits the mainstream?
Oh man, I don't think it's really up to us if it makes the mainstream or not. That's like, you know?
Yeah, okay. So you're not sure if it's gonna. I mean, The Weeknd had his song, but people, do they see that as Synthwave song, or do they see that as a really cool The Weeknd song?
I think when you have like songs that make it into the mainstream that are either by synthwave artists or have like very clear synthwave sounds within them, I think it just serves as like a good gateway to the scene, because I don't really know if there's a way for things to go mainstream. I'm like, maybe if Outland or other like kind of productions that specialize in synthwave events and parties, like if those get larger, I'm sure that it'll just inevitably keep getting bigger. But I don't know. I kind of feel already that there's a lot more attention being paid to it than it has in the past. So whether or not we're at its peak yet, I don't know. But it's an interesting thing that I think about is like, is it the mainstream lifting up synthwave, or is it synthwave bringing people in to its pre-existing world? And I was thinking about that with the documentary, because at some point, you know, we're going to have thousands and thousands of people who've seen this documentary, Yvonne, especially if it, you know, hits, you know, like Prime or something like Netflix or something like that. And it has John Carpenter. It has, you know, these sort of cultural milestone synthwave artists. Do you think it's a matter of the documentary bringing the mainstream to synthwave, or is it bringing synthwave to the mainstream?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I don't think that anyone has the answer to that. I mean, I'm with Mecca here. Nobody knows how it works. And my opinion on mainstream and all this conversation is that it happens all the time with underground subcultures that get known somehow. And the history tell us what's going to happen. So, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, if something is going to get popular, I mean, you got to deal with that, or you got to change profession, because there's nothing you can do. If people like what you do, they're going to buy your records, and they are going to, and I think, honestly, that's a good thing. The idea of, and I do understand the other side, okay? I discovered this beautiful thing, and this is mine, and I don't want it to be corrupt, but there's nothing you can do about it. So a pragmatic point of view here is that you gotta love what you do, and if you don't love it anymore, just go do something else. And there's gonna be always people who are gonna try to be nostalgic and, you know, recycle music or art or whatever that is. So do your thing, and don't really matter if it's gonna be mainstream or not. Having said that, going mainstream for something like Synthwave could be really great for you guys artists, because, and not only artists and musicians, it's just what is behind that. The artwork, graphic designers, that's great because it gets jobs for people. And I think there's much more interest in all the visuals that surround the music itself. So people get attention. I'm seeing neon grid backgrounds all over the place, on commercials, on movies, on titles of you know, on TV shows. And people don't know it's Synthwave. They don't really care about that. They just love it. And then someone tells them, this is Synthwave. What is Synthwave? This is 80s kind of stuff. And then they go into a rabbit hole, and hopefully they know other people and graphic designers and pixelers and blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if I said something interesting here, but you
did. You're capturing it well. I think one thing that's interesting is there's somebody in the chat named Marissa who said, I fell into synthwave after hearing a band at the end of a modern movie and got hooked from there. Marissa, if you can tell us which band or movie that was, that'd be interesting. But I think that also speaks to a point, because I'll be randomly watching a Netflix show. I think it was 13 Reasons Why. I was watching it, and then I heard Lost Boy by the Midnight on it. So like, You watch Red Oaks. I don't know, Ogre, do you have anything in Red Oaks? Half of
No,
I know
Dallas is in Red Oaks. He's had
Dallas is in Red Oaks, Miami Nights, Betamax, Lamados.
Yeah.
There's like a bunch of these shows.
Yeah, I was in HBO's Vice Principals and stuff like that. I had a real Synthwave score and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the music supervisor. That crew is the same people who are involved in Red Oaks and actually Halloween as well.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, DeVoe Yates, the music supervisor, is really good. So then the question I have for you, Yvonne, before I do want to get to the Q&A questions that people have submitted. But Yvonne, what do you want people to get out of this film ultimately? Like when you get to the credits, how do you want them to feel? What do you want their takeaway to be?
I want them to be happy, and if they smile at the end, that for me is a big win, because the whole movie is constructed in a way that it's a time travel to, and I'm gonna be a little cheesy here, a time travel to your kid or to your inner child. So if in the end you do that, that's a great win. And if you are an artist, because there's two audiences in this movie. One, and I never forget that, is the Synthwave artists that are gonna see that movie, and they feel they are small, they are in their own world, and they are not big enough, or whatever they feel about the art. And I want them to feel that, hey, I discovered your music like I don't know how many years ago, and I made a movie about that. So there's gonna be something interesting here. So keep going.
Yeah.
So if I connected with that, and they feel that, you know, they are connecting with the outside world, outside of the bedroom, that's a big win for me. And the other audience is the, let's say, the mainstream audience, the people that are not into Synthwave, which is really the target for me. It's like, hey, there's this world out here. This is an amazing landscape of visual, neon, music, and people really putting their hearts into that. And I think you're gonna connect with that because, you know, the universal, the universe of that we have, you know, the collective memory. Sorry, the collective memories that's built on U.S. films and TV shows from the late 70s, the 80s, and the early 90s. We can all connect with that.
Yeah. I think that's the upside to the U.S. being everywhere, is we've given everybody the great culture, you know, and then they turn it into their own. Like you think about like the French largely invented a lot of synthwave, and they did it. You think going back to Daft Punk all the way through Valerie and everything else, is they took some of these sort of 80s elements that we threw away as cheesy in the 90s, quite frankly, and we couldn't run fast enough away from it. And they plopped it all together and mixed it up into a bouillabaisse of just amazing fun and excitement and glory. It's a beautiful thing. So we get to the Q&A here. Okay. A few people have upvoted a question here. Yvonne or the producers, why is Kavinsky not in the movie? Why didn't he show up, I guess is what they say, but I think it's more complicated than that.
That's one of the biggest, let's say, that's one of the artists I wanted to have in the movie. We really tried. The producers who are here can really tell that I was, you know, we have to get Kavinsky one scene, I don't know, maybe once every 3 months. Hey, let's email again him, because I really think he should be here.
Yeah.
Because whatever you like him or not, or his music or not, the long tail of his music is there if you see it from the outside world.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Kavinsky is not there because he denied he didn't want to be involved in the movie. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. I wrote a 5,000 word piece on Drive, and he's the only one who's not involved. And sometimes you just can't get certain people involved, right?
Yeah.
You can't force him. He's a huge influence. Can't force him.
Yeah, he never does media, so I totally understand that. And it's just his choice as an artist, like Daft Punk or other artists. So that's fine.
Yeah. One day though, maybe you'll make a sequel, Or maybe I will just go to Paris and just find him and just say, hey, let's have a Valingo chat. We'll figure it out. I'll bring you with. I think we touched on this a little bit about Ogre and Yvonne, the process for working together on the film. So there's no name on it, but there's a question for Mecca Maiko. You talk in the film about the possibilities the internet gives for synthwave composers. And after that great live DJ set you made last night on Instagram, I'm wondering, do you think the virtual world could replace the real venues and concerts, especially given the situation with the lockdown?
Ooh, I mean, hopefully only temporarily, because it is so different listening to something out of your phone speaker and then being in a whole immersive setting and experience. And just like, if you've ever been to like a Perturbator show or something, you know, like they put a lot into it. And just like, I mean, it is like a performance art. So I don't know, there's a lot that you miss out on, but at the same time, I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot recently because part of me really likes being able to see like artists that I like DJ or perform while I don't have to go out and worry about like how I'm getting home and if I have to take a cab or like time trains. And also there's been a lot of people who I've spoken to that like at Outland, they travel so far to be there they live in like a small town and it's really hard to get to these events, but they also serve as sort of like a little community hub once they're there. Like it's, especially with the synthwave scene, because it is still not mainstream, not yet. There's just like a certain richness that you get from being around people. But for the times that you don't really want to miss something, but you also really just kind of want to be at home, live stream is a pretty nice opportunity. I think it's going to be something that we see more of, but I don't think it's going to replace that good old fashioned going to a bar and
right. You need we're humans are social animals, and one key factor of being social is actually being in person. One thing I'd like to add, I think anybody here probably would agree, and some of the folks who are on the chats who have been to events would certainly agree. There's like a synthwave scene that's on the internet. That's where it started. That's where it is maybe in the day-to-day. But like when you go to a venue and like you go to the Midnight FM84, you go to Outland, you go to any of these, and you see people in person, maybe for the first time, or maybe you see them once a year when you go to a show. There's a magic to actually being able to just hang out in person. And I mean, I certainly love hanging out with you in person. So, you know. And,
likewise.
And one day, Ogre. One day.
Yeah,
and
one
actually,
day
Yvonne. And I've obviously had the pleasure of spending 8 to 10 hours with Yvonne all over Brooklyn. So it's fun. And then, Damien in the chat. Oh my God, Perturbator Live is something else. It really is. I would also recommend Carpenter Brute. A lot of these synthwave acts, they bring such a raw power. You're stopping your tracks. It's incredible. Okay, so we have another question here. Okay. I think this could be for Ogre or Mecca Maiko. It's from Rod. It's which is your favorite synth of all time? You can both answer. Obviously Ogre's surrounded by synthesizers. So what's your favorite?
If I could only keep one, probably the Monopoly, because it can do everything. It can do Depeche Mode, John Carpenter. This one actually used to belong to the got the head of audio at Rockstar Games, so it was used on the game Manhunt. It was used on the first Grand Theft Auto 1, 2, and 3 soundtracks. So like this one's great. But
okay. How did you get that though?
He gave it me. He's called it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like you're hiding 1,000 amazing stories in that room.
Maybe. Yeah.
Is that where you make all your music, Robin? Is that where you make all your music?
Yeah, in this chair on this computer.
Lounging on the sofa.
Yeah, that's where I go and sit and listen when I can't figure out what's gone wrong.
So Mecca Maiko, what is your favorite synthesizer?
Ooh, okay, so I use a lot of soft synths because starting in your parents' bedroom will do that. It gets you used to having nothing to work with. But I guess if I can answer this with a plugin, it would be a toss-up between the Tyrell 9, I think.
Tyrell N6. It's my favorite VST. It's my absolute favorite plugin. It's great.
Yeah, see, I got Ogre to agree with me.
There you go. All right.
It's great.
Okay.
Like I love it. I love it for bass lines especially. Like making like really like shitty 90s basses.
Yes, please. Okay, so do we have an exclusive here, Yvonne? Are we going to have a Mecca Maiko Ogre collaboration? Are we seeing the makings of it right now? So I have to. That's part of what I do. So another interest. What's that?
No, they have to do the collaboration. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. Collab, bro. So there's an interesting question here from Samuel. There were some nice conflicting opinions that the film was happy to confront. Anonymity being a particular hot potato. Yvonne, what are your takes on it? What are your takes on anonymity in Synthwave?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
What is your take on? So the film talked about a bunch of different issues, and one of them was the idea of people being anonymous. So, like, not using their real name, maybe not showing their face. You had a few people, more than a few, in your film. MPM, Ghost, and probably missing one, who had a mask on and you don't know their real name. What is your take on that?
That was one of the aspects that back in the day when I discovered the scene, that really was super interesting to me because, first, this is nothing new. I mean, that happens all the time in history of music and art when you where people and the artists don't feel probably too confident about their own image and they prefer to put music first. That's, kind of a statement of, okay, this is not me, but this is my music. So check my music, not my face. So that's interesting. But what was really interesting for me is the whole level of the thing. When I discovered Synthwave, there was not a clear intention of all these people that they were really hiding. They were just not putting the face out there, like you will do now on Facebook. And, there was just 80s avatars of, a Palm or a Lamborghini or, a bikini girl, whatever cliche you want to take. That was, there wasn't. So the whole level of what these people, they were taking it so serious that I was like, okay, they are really taking it so serious. I mean, there's like a whole rule of not showing my face, or they are too shy, and there's something in the personality of those artists that is huge because it's happening all over the world for all many kinds of people. So I was really drawn into that, and that was one of the main aspects of why I was interested in the music. Obviously, it has changed because now almost everybody show their face, but I think that's really something interesting, and that tells you a lot where this music comes from. Even if that aspect changed,
Right. Well, and it's interesting because, Haley, we kind of talked with her about that before, Mecca Maiko, about that before, about becoming more of a face. Ogre you don't show your face too much generally. You have, artwork. It usually speaks for itself for the music. But one thing that's interesting is one of the first synthwavers who did Outrun and the Sunny stuff, MPM, is very, very anonymous. And, to the point where he had music up and then just deleted it all, disappeared. And now, people have sort of popped up kind of pretending to be him from time to time. But you actually interviewed him, and that's huge. That's a huge thing. How did you convince somebody that anonymous to be on camera, even obscured?
One of the most complicated things in documentary was to have NPM, and I'm really grateful for him to have cross this thing he has of not showing his face and not doing any media and not do any interview, because he doesn't have really any interest of that. He has another life. He has, and it was really interesting, because when he showed up for the interview, I didn't know what to expect. Really,
right.
And it was really a very deep interview. He was very honest, and he was all the time really not understanding why people were asking him about the music he did so many years ago, and he actually deleted from the internet.
Yeah.
So you have to really understand that he's in another kind of universe. And I was telling him, man, I'm doing this because you are all over the place. People always quote you as one of the originators, and whatever you believe it or not, you created something. And it was really an amazing. Yes, it was.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It was really complicated, not because he wasn't really saying no, because he wasn't that, because he's not into any social media, into any email. So it was really much more complicated to get an answer from him than just being him saying no.
Yeah, I can respect that. Give a gift to the world and then peace out. There's a motivation there that I can respect. The next question, I'm going to do two more, and then we'll wind down. Let's see. Here it is. There was somebody as an independent artist making Synthwave. So this is for Ogre and Mecca Maiko. How is it possible? What is your best advice for getting recognized? Basically, if you think there's all these different artists out there, how did you rise above the noise? We'll start with Mecca Maiko.
Well,
how do we know who you are? Why are you here? How did you end up here?
I don't know. I think it's just kind of, you have to have a persistence and a commitment to what you're actually making. First of all, it sounds very cheesy to say, but it should always start with the music and what you're producing. And you kind of also have to be mentally prepared to accept the fact that you could be doing it for a long time and have nobody pay attention to it, and still have a decent amount of internal satisfaction just from making it, because it will be tough to kind of get people to notice you. That being said, I think you could go into a huge marketing thing, but I guess if you have some sort of just consistency to what you're doing, and the image that you put forward as well, whether that's, so you're not changing your logo every week or something like that, just kind of make it easy for people to hear something and see something and be like, okay, yes, this is the same thing.
Right.
Same thing.
Okay.
But
Makes sense.
I don't know. I honestly think it would be really hard to get it to start from scratch right now.
Now.
I know that there's a lot of collabs that will help, if you work with the different artists and then you see their fan base, that helps a lot. But also I don't know, be prepared too that if you reach out to people, there's probably going to be a lot of people that will say no, but it's nothing personal.
Right. Yeah. Ogre, how did you rise above?
I don't know if I have, but I think the only advice I can really, Synthwave's a really difficult thing to talk about, because Like my advice to a synthwave, my advice to an artist would just be as true to yourself as you can. Find what authentically you want to say, what you have to say, what you need to express, and like just do that and just keep making it. Like it won't happen overnight. Maybe, and as Haley said, like maybe nothing will ever happen. But I think as long as you're making it for you and you love it and you enjoy it, and if you're, I mean, putting things out on the internet is you put yourself in a position of vulnerability, however you do it, whether you like show your face or not or whatever. Like it's right. And if people don't like what you're doing, that's really going to hurt. But if people do, then you've connected with someone, and that's like that's the most amazing thing in the world. In some ways, like to reach out and brighten someone's day, or bring some entertainment or happiness or something into someone's life. Like I don't know, that's amazing. But yeah, I think just be yourself. Like enjoy what you do. Find out what it is you want to say, and just do it. Just do it. Keep doing it. If you've made it and it's sat on your laptop, I think I say it in the film or something. Like I don't know. Like if it's music's no good on your hard drive. Like if no one can hear it, unless you're just making it, you just make it for you. Make it for you and keep doing it.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, that's great advice.
And you don't need gear to do it. That's the other thing. You don't need gear. There's so many free soft synths and free ways, to get into it. Like, yeah. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, A Real Hero was made in FL Studio with no synthesizers. So there you go. The final question we have here, it's an interesting one. And I lost it. Okay. Oh, B-roll. Okay. So with the hours and hours of footage that Yvonne has, have you ever thought about doing any sort of like behind the scenes, deleted scenes and those kind of features to show, like add to the experience?
Well, I don't have to be honest, I don't have the energy right now to do that because the editing was so long that I got exhausted, to be honest. But having said that, I have tons of material that are really interesting. I mean, people need to know that there's 29, thank you, Anna, I saw that on the chat, 29 interviews, which is 1 hour long, mostly. So there's, I don't know, Ogre and Mecca are probably just 2 or 3 minutes in the film, really. So there's 57 minutes of not used material we have, and the B-roll. And there's a lot of B-roll that didn't end in the movie, so there's a lot of material to do a good, I don't know, 30, 40 more minutes. But I had an extended cut, like 2 hours long, something like that. So I had that, but it wasn't for an audience point of view, that wasn't really working because it was too much. But for people who are really much more interested in knowing the artists and the scene and blah, blah, yes, we have that material. And maybe when I have the energy and the team will also have the energy, we will do it. We are thinking about that. We just,
yeah. I think we want to see more, Yvonne, because the way the voice and eye that you had as a director, I thought was really impressive. And you took something, like you took sort of a very underground DIY scene and sort of built something really special that I think is something that's going to be palatable and has been palatable in festivals, on streaming. It's like you could say Netflix grade documentary. I mean that as a compliment. So I think you've really upped the game here, and so we just want to see more. So # release the extended cut. I don't know. All right. So I want to thank everybody for showing up today and asking some great questions. I want to thank the guests here. We have coming up soon, Ghost, speaking of Ghost, is going to have a DJ set, which is exciting. I mean, this is, I know, right? One hell of a festival, huh? Is there anything you want to say before we sign off? I'll go through and just go ahead and say if you want to say something, Mecca Maiko, Ogre, Yvonne, to the fans out there.
You gonna go, guys, first?
All right, Mecca.
Oh,
What do you want to say? What's your sign-off statement here?
Oh my god, my sign-off statement. Yeah, I want to steal what Ogre said and say, be true to yourself, because regardless if Synthwave goes into the mainstream and dies, or if it rises and it's fiery and we have it for like 30 more years, just stay true to yourself. Be nice. Like, live your life. That's what I have to say.
All right. Anyone else? Hard to top that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Well, be excellent to each other. Wild stallions. All right. Thank you, everybody. Make sure if you haven't seen the film yet, go see the film. Buy their records. It's Ogre has a Bandcamp. Mecca Maiko has a Bandcamp. They make beautiful music. And then check out this site. All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.